What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something very interesting. I posted this picture last week on Instagram. It was of a blue McLaren Senna. Now this was a model car, and what I did was I challenged myself by going to the closest dollar store and building a light box, and then transforming that picture that I took using that light box into a composition for a canvas. Alright guys, so I went to the dollar store and picked up a few things. I'm going to try to build our Senna softbox that goes over it for our studio, for our lighting. And this is what I picked up. Alright guys, so some wooden skewers. I got two of these metal trays. These super cheap remote control closet lights. Some parchment paper. Some super glue. Velcro, magnetic tape, and some brownies. Alright, now that our light box was done, it was time to unbox our model car, the Mclaren Senna. Alright, so when I picked up the car, Adam from Model Cars Canada warned me about one thing. He's like, hey man, when you're unpacking this thing, just be a little bit careful with the side mirrors. And guess what I did? I ended up breaking one of the side mirrors, so much for one off. Alright, so luckily this thing popped back on. I'm probably gonna have to super glue this back together after the shoot. The light box ended up working out perfectly. When I put the white sheet around it under the car and made a half pipe, it turned into a massive light box, and it was perfect lighting for what we're trying to do. Alright guys, let's take the shot and then pull it up in Adobe Photoshop. Now the first step would be to crop out the car. So what we're probably going to use is the pen tool, and then quickly go around the car. I'm just going to speed this up for you guys. Do take your time with this. Obviously, you don't want to miss a side mirror or, misshape the car in any sort of way. So go through it, zoom in, zoom out, make sure you're on the right path. But even for here where the spoiler is, through the spoiler you could see the backdrop. So what I had to do was I had to first crop out the car, and then once we cropped it out on the layer, that the car layer, I had to take out that little piece between the spoiler right there. Alright, so this is the backdrop I've chosen. Obviously guys, when you're doing something like this, always have a backdrop in mind before you shoot it. It really helps putting it into place. It's very, very tough to shoot a car and then find a backdrop for it just because of the angles. But in this, it worked out perfect. We had a huge light box on top of our McLaren Senna model car, and this actual backdrop has this hole in the sky where the light's coming through it, so it almost looks real because the lighting falls into place. Okay, so now that the car is in place, as you can see, it looks pretty good, right? It almost looks like it belongs on that platform. Now the only thing it's missing is the shadow. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select our pen tool again, and then quickly go around the shadow from the original picture, right? Like I said, when you have a backdrop in mind and you shoot it the way the backdrop is and match the lighting, it really helps, because in a case like this, to actually render a shadow, it would have been very tough. But what we could just do is we could just copy and paste that shadow layer and put it above our backdrop layer so it's visible. And then what you actually do is you go into your layer styles and you change it to multiply. So now what's happening is that the texture of the platform is appearing through the shadow, making it more real. The only other issue is that our actual crop was too sharp. So we're just gonna quickly create a mask, and then I'm just gonna speed this up. We're gonna select a black paintbrush, turn down the opacity, and kind of soften those edges. Perfect. Alright, so that's our shadow right there, and that's our car. Alright, so next up, I'm just gonna get the spot removal tool, and I'm gonna quickly take out some of these dust particles that have settled on the car. This is such a great tool. It's super powerful, and almost 80% of the time it works perfect. Really helps getting rid of a few things around the image or distractions in the backdrop. You can just use this. Okay, so we're gonna pull the McLaren layer, the model car, into our raw camera filter, and we're just gonna tweak it a bit, bump up the clarity, drop the highlights, just a little bit of contrast, drop the blacks and up the whites. The next step I took was to kind of add a little bit more of realisticness to the backdrop. So to create a blurred background, what you're gonna do is you're gonna duplicate the backdrop layer. You're gonna go down to blurs and into Gaussian blur. You're just gonna bump it up a bit right here. It kind of creates that fake blurred background effect. So we're gonna add a mask to that layer, and then what I basically did was you kind of want to show Photoshop. It's kind of like creating a map, so what to show, what not to show. If you want to learn more about masking, do check out the video that I've created. But I'm going to turn down the opacity of the actual layer just because the blur was a bit too strong. I'll drop it right there. Oops. Just go back into our mask, and then I'm just going to paint black over here just because if this was a real shot, that would be in focus aligned with the car, and the background would be blurred out. And then I'm just gonna create a layer styles. I'm gonna create a brightness contrast, and we're gonna bump up the contrast, drop the brightness. So the effect that I had in mind was that I kind of wanted everything other than where the light is falling to be darker, just to have more attention on the actual car, right? So since the brightness contrast layer is like a mask, you can just take a black paintbrush and then mask out all the parts you want with the original brightness, right? So the whole over here, and then I'm gonna leave the background, and then the platform the car is actually on, just over here. We're gonna do this, but it's very tough to just freehand this. So there's an easier way, and the easier way is you just select the pen tool, and then you basically go around that platform. Yep. Let me get this right. Nope. That's wrong. Let me try this again. Right, just like that. And we stretch this out. And line this up here. And here. Alright, perfect. And then we're gonna brush in there. So I'm gonna 100% this. I'm gonna paint it black, paint the mask black. You see how it's showing up? Perfect. So those are all the areas we painted black. That's where our brightness contrast layer won't have an effect. Right? So I did feel that it was a bit too bright. So I'm just gonna change it to a white paintbrush and just turn down the opacity and kind of work that in a bit just so it doesn't stand out that much. But yeah. Alright, so that's our brightness contrast right there. And then I'm just gonna combine all the layers to create one layer, and I'm gonna go into color lookup and load a LUT. I love this LUT. Film stock is perfect. Anytime you want to create a very dark, moody image, this thing is just like a one-hit edit. So I just uploaded that just to add a bit more of a moody feel to this image. It also has a very yellow undertone. I would probably change that when I pull it into Lightroom just to give it more of a blue effect. I wanted a very cold image, so let's pull it into Lightroom. And then we're gonna do our insta crop 4x5. I'll bump up the clarity, shadows, and the whites. And here's where we're gonna turn it blue. And we're gonna do some curves adjustment there. And add a green tint to the highlights and a blue tint to the shadows. And a very small vignette to the whole image, and that is pretty much it. A couple of tweaks here and there. I do like to play around with, obviously, like even after the image is done, sometimes I sleep on it and then I'll come back and then I'll just go at it again. Like this one here, I actually thought that the blue was a bit too bright. So then I went back in and then I switched it up again, kind of turned down that saturation. And then I wanted to pull out the brakes, so I did up the orange and then I turned up the brightness on the orange. And that's pretty much it, you guys. That's everything, you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Do check out Model Cars Canada for your model car needs. They have a massive collection and a beautiful one-offs, and some of them are pretty expensive, to be honest. I'm trying to get my hands on a Porsche 918, maybe for the next video, but do leave a comment below with any future videos you'd like to see or any challenges which are going on in the photography world. I'd like to give them a shot. And do like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Peace. Do comment below, but leave a comment. But leave a comment below. Do like, subscribe, and share. That's too much. Asking for too much. Right? I'm trying to get my hands on a very expensive Porsche 918. Hopefully they see this video and they're like, "Oh, this is the guy." They just hand it over to me, and then we'll make more videos out of it.